Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time on my channel, I would highly recommend that you go back and view my first 7 videos to better understand what I'm talking about and why I'm talking about it. For everybody else, welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, this story from my mother's perspective. My mom did not want me to be an only child. And because she did not want me to be an only child, she comes from a family of, I believe, 14 kids. My mom has very many sisters and very many brothers. And because she enjoyed growing up in a big family, she thought it wise to have a second child. And so actually having my sister was more for my benefit than not. And when she had this second child, she realized that she wasn't giving me the attention that I deserved. She didn't have that energy to take care of a newborn and take care of a 3-year-old at the same time. And so she said, hey, I got money. Let me take my daughter to nursery school. So she sent me off to school out of love, out of just desire for a better life for her daughter. And then when I went through nursery school, I was always getting presents, getting prizes for being, top 3 in my class. So when she sent me to the local public school and I was outshining them, I was very smart. She decided, you know what? There's probably not much competition here. My daughter needs to go and meet other kids who are as smart as she is so she can get better. And so she decided to send me to boarding school. And when I later asked my mother, why did you send me to boarding school? She said that when she was growing up, she had so many responsibilities. She had to go get firewood. She had to go fetch water. She had to go tend to this and tend to that. All this prior to going to school. And so by the time she was going to school, she was already so exhausted. And I can imagine that for each time she had to go get firewood and there would be dogs barking at her, and she would swear, I will never put my daughter through this. And it's that desire that I will never put my daughter through this that got her to send me to a boarding school where I would have no responsibilities other than study, okay? And from a spiritual perspective, it's very important for anybody who's going through any kind of problems to change that problem. And sometimes when that problem is not changed, we vow to change it ourselves. We make a promise to the world that when it's my turn, I will do better. Okay? And this was my mother saying, I'm going to be a better mother than my mother was. I'm going to send my girl to school where she will get all the education that she needs. And she will do better things, greater things than I did. Because I will have set a better foundation for her. Okay? See, the only problem with this story is there was never any explanations. Because my mother viewed me as a child who doesn't know much. And when you view a child as a child who doesn't know much about life, then you don't feed that child anything about life. Instead, you just make decisions and the kids have to follow. And when you ask, the reason is because I'm your mother. I don't really have to explain that. Simply, I'm your mother and I'm sending you to that school, so you will go to that school. And so for the first 14 years of my life, I thought my mom was a saint. I did not think my mom made any mistakes. And so I tried so much to live in alignment with that. I hated myself for every time that I made any mistake because I understood that my mother didn't make any mistakes. I hated myself for any time that I had to stand up for myself and it felt like I was hurting somebody else because I understood that my mother just did everything right and she never faced any issues in life. You understand? And that's the big illusion. The truth is, kids are very smart. Kids are very, very smart. But we can only understand how smart they are when we start treating them as smart individuals. Okay? We have this understanding as adults that we get a child and we look at the child as a blank page and we decide, oh, this blank page needs a title, you know, and we decide, okay, I'm going to raise this child to be this and that. And so when you ask this child, what do you want to be? The child is saying, I want to be a doctor. Okay, because their parents didn't become doctors and they think that becoming a doctor is important. So they impose it on their kids. And kids don't know any better. They trust the adults in their life, okay? So fast forward to me having completely done with school, and somehow I got an opportunity to move to the US. And when I took this opportunity to my mother, I said, Mom, look, there's an opportunity here that I could travel to the US. What do you think? And she said, yes, of course, let's take this to your father. So we took it to my father and he said, yes, of course. Admit that at that point, I felt a little sad. I said, I have gone through boarding school, all through primary school, all through high school. Now I'm done with high school. And my mother has no problems letting me go. I said, I would have liked for her to have been a little bit more hesitant, like, hey, I'll miss you, or hey, but there was really none of that. Okay, now that's my perspective as a 16-year-old teenager. And from my mother's perspective, she saw the opportunity to get out of Kenya as an opportunity for great life. She thought to herself, wow, 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 wow. My daughter has an opportunity that I have never gotten in my life. So I will let her go and be. Okay, so at 16 and a half, I landed in the US. And at this point, you can now imagine where I'm coming from, because all this time I've been thinking, acting, and living my life based on my perspective, which is very screwed. Because as you hear the story, there's a bigger picture to this, but I wasn't getting the bigger picture. So when I moved here, my mother's mother passed on. And I really loved this woman. And when I got the news, it broke me. It really broke me. And I said, my life is actually not even working out here. I'm struggling. I'm in situations with people I don't want to be. I I miss my mother. I miss my father. And I remember calling my mom and saying, Mom, this is so sad. I really have to come home for my grandmother's burial. And my mother said, hey, home where? My mother said, home? To do what? Do you think you will resurrect her by your coming? You have to think beyond this. You have to look at your life and what you could potentially be giving away by taking a flight here with no assurance that you can fly back there. And that was the first real conversation I can say that my mother and I had about life. And I realized, wow, 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 she's right. She's actually right. My grandmother has lived her whole life, and her whole life has ended. What is my life going to be like? And I kid you not, that is when I started being serious with my life. And I started to say, if the people that I love, or the people that love me the most, could actually miss my burial, that means I'm actually in this by myself. I realized my parents' role in my life was to raise me. And by what I was seeing then, I thought they had done a very good job because, hey, I was now about to turn 17. I hadn't been pregnant. I wasn't into drugs. I was a good girl, for lack of a better word. And this got me thinking seriously. And I'm such a calculator. So I started thinking about my life in great detail, what I want to achieve in life, where I want to be. Suddenly, there was nobody telling me you have to go to church or you have to go to work. I was doing things out of, hey, it needs to be done. So I'm telling myself to do it. This is the point at which I started to grow up, okay? And when I realized that I was actually in control of my life, I realized that I realized that a lot of things that I had been told by the adults in my life was actually not right. And I began to uncover at what point in life did I stop listening to these people and start pretending to listen. So I went one by one and I said, my mother, the moment she brought my sister home, I felt very betrayed. And then fast forward to all my birthdays, my shosho, my grandmother, would give me a thousand shilling note. I'm still trying to transition between the dollar and the Kenyan shillings. I am going to get used to it. So my grandmother would give me 1,000 shilling note on my birthday, and since my mom was present, she'd say, hey, let me keep this for you, and I would give it to her, okay? And then later I would find something that I like and I'll tell my mom, give me my 1,000 Kenyan shilling note so I can go do this and that. And she would say, where do you think I got the sugar or the milk or the tea or the electricity bill? I used it. And I'll be like, oh snap, she tricked me. I fell for it again. She tricked me again. And after a couple of birthdays, I said, you know what? I don't trust her. I do not trust her. I do not trust her. So instead, if I had any issues, I would go to my cousins who had been in my life, telling me things that adults thought was too much for me. Which makes sense because I trusted them because they were giving me legit information that was unfiltered, right? And then again, it went to my father, and I said, when was the last time I stopped trusting this man? And I remembered I was in class 8 and I was about to do my KCPE, and something had overcome me, and I had said, you know what? This school system is not working. Something within me was telling me this is not right. And I had just shut down. I had literally just shut down. And I remember my aunt had taken me to school. And when we got there, I told her, you know what? If my parents really cared for me, they would have driven me here. I don't know why they sent you to bring me to school. And because of that, I am not staying. Let's go back home. And my aunt said, please, Fidelis. And I was like, listen, I'm actually, I'm not staying. Let's go back home. And my aunt had called my dad. And my dad had tried to talk to me. And I said, no, Dad, if you want us to talk, we can talk at home. Mind you. And I had gone back home and locked myself in my room. I think I was just experiencing something. I don't know what. I know my mom tried to ask me, do you have a boyfriend? I was like, no. Do you have this? No, there's nothing. Life is not making any sense. And when I said life is not making any sense, and here I was about to do my KCPE in a few weeks, and I was refusing to go back to school. And during that period, my father avoided me. He avoided me like the plague. He instead sent my mother, my aunties, and to come talk to me, okay? And I said, wait, but I'm your daughter. I am your daughter. Why won't you come talk to me? And then I asked myself, wait, am I even your daughter? Am I even your daughter? And for me, that's where the trust just you know. And so now remembering this, I said, so after these instances, I had only pretended to listen. I had developed like a double life where your daughter will show up whenever you want to talk, whenever you want, whenever you have something that needs to be addressed. I will act like that daughter that you so deeply want. But as soon as you're out of my sight, I'm back to myself. Okay? And for me to realize this at the age of 17 meant that I really had to create a life that was going to be meaningful for me. And I started to question everything that my father and my mother had brought into my life. Okay? Starting with Sunday school. I remember many days in boarding school, I would stay up awake. I would stay up terrified, fearing that the end of the world would come, and that I was like, oh my God, where am I going to end up? In hell? In heaven? This is such big stress for a child my age. So whenever I had like something really major happening, like an exam, I would be unable to sleep. But not only would I be unable to sleep, I had nobody to comfort me. I had nobody to just like leave my room and go to my mother's room to say, Mom, I need you. There was nobody. I was in boarding school. Okay, and for someone that is in such deep need to connect, when you deprive them of that connection, life is very hard. Life is very hard. So I continue to wear these various hats for the various roles that I was playing in everybody's life. But deep down, I knew who I was. And I did so much to hide it from everybody else. Why? One, I was afraid that people would not accept me for who I was. I was afraid that the moment I tell someone what my heart actually feels, and they would disappear and they would never come near me. And that's one thing I really did not want. I knew I was here for that togetherness. So I really tried everything I could to make sure that togetherness continued to exist in my life. A good example, I I didn't know how to reject people. I remember when I met my ex, and he was like, "Hey, do you think you can be my girlfriend?" I realized, whoa, shit, ooh, snap. I said, ooh, snap. This is about to get serious. Is this someone that I actually want in my life? Do I vision this person being the father of my kids for the rest of my life, or not? The answer was not. That's the kind of choice I'm telling you. You come to a junction and you have to make a choice. Deep down within me, I knew, no way, it's never gonna work. But outwardly, I said yes. I said yes because one, I was afraid of rejection. Two, I didn't want to be alone. And three, I knew I can't really show my true self because of whatever reason, right? But then 5 years later, obviously, I ended up breaking up with this guy. And as soon as it was over, I was like, whew, that was so much I had to put up with. That was so much. It took so much energy to be that version, to be his girlfriend, because I really didn't love him. But pretending to love this guy and pretending that this life was okay and pretending that we would end up together eventually. I had pretended so much that it had become my reality. I was literally living an illusion. And when we broke up, I remember thinking, wow, this time round, I don't care. I don't want to go through that kind of a hell. I don't want to go through that kind of hell. And I said, this time, this time it's going to work. And this time I'm going to speak with my heart. If you would be interested as to how my husband and I met, check out my video titled, Are You Mindful or Is Your Mind Full? So what am I trying to tell you here? So I started to question a lot in my life. And the part that had played a major role in my life was my religion. Having been born of a Christian family with Christian beliefs, but then having come to America and met all these people from diverse backgrounds who seem to be very good and genuine people, and yet my religion told me that those were not included in the kingdom of God. And I said, no way, no way, no way, no way, because that Indian guy is actually much better than I am. He's doing a lot more for others than I am. You can't tell me that I'll go to heaven and he won't. So I started accepting other people's religions as, hey, let me take a look and see what they're talking about. I know I've been told it's forbidden to even try, but let me check and see what they're talking about. And so I did. I learned about being mindful from the Buddhist. And that was the best thing that could have been introduced in my life. When I started being mindful, now I was more aware in real time of the conclusions I was giving to the world. And because I was now an adult who understood that I was responsible for my own life and not my mother or father, then I started to ask questions. And some questions that you actually ask yourself. You ask God. And in the process of asking these questions, like, is it true that only Christians will go to heaven? Wait, is there a heaven? Wait, so where's my grandmother? And a lot of other things, you know? So my biggest advice would be this. For anyone that's trying to start on their spiritual journey, the most important thing you can do is start being truthful to your own self. What I'm trying to say is, for anyone that's interested in getting started on their spiritual journey, I think it really starts from you asking yourself certain questions. Things like, why am I dealing with this issue that I'm dealing with right now? What is this issue really trying to teach me? I know for me, when I was going through my relationship with my ex, it was really telling me how painful my life can be if I'm not being truthful to myself. And that pain was both emotional and physical. Another question to ask would be, what is my deepest desire on this earth? If money wasn't an issue, what would I be doing? And I can say that for me, I love being creative. I love creating things with my hands. I used to win awards as a young kid for my creativity, but the adults in my life told me that that wasn't going to pay the bills, that wasn't going to take me anywhere. I needed to go to school and graduate. And so I listened, because as a child, it's monkey see, monkey do. That's how you adapt your life. But once you are in a situation where you're independent and can make your own decisions, for me to continue going to school to get my master's would be lying to myself. For me to be truthful to myself means I start creating things with my hands. Because for me, that's what I actually enjoy. And from the things that I create, I will get reimbursed just the same as what I'm doing now. The truth is, with your spiritual journey, nobody else can do it for you. And you really have to step up for yourself. You have to say, yes, I understand. Just think about this. Many people spend so much money in a week just buying alcohol. Others spend so much money in a week just paying for sex. The reality is, alcohol, sex, video games, I don't know, there's so many worldly distractions. All these things are trying to distract you from what is of the most value to you as a human being. And every day we allow ourselves to get distracted. We kind of are fueled by fear, and that is why anything that will bring you fear is a very good business. Look at the insurance agencies. Your car could break down or you could die early. Buy insurance, and people buy into it because it's based off of fear. Turn on the news today and you'll find out so much going on around the world, and you're like, oh God. I asked my friend the other day, why do you keep watching these things? They're not happening to you. And he said, because I need to know. And I said, you need to know, and then what? Remain fearful that it might happen to you? When you watch such news, then now it's in your mind. It's occupying a space that could have been occupied by something greater, like an original idea that materializes. Great invention like Tesla. You know, to be honest, most of the great things in life were discovered by people who are okay being alone. How did he discover about gravity? He was simply resting under a tree and an apple fell on him. Think about that for a minute. He wasn't on his phone, watching TV, gossiping, dancing, having sex. All these things, the most important thing you can do to yourself is bring yourself to stillness, meditation, solitude. When you block out everything else around the world, that's when you start to discover who you are, why you're here, and you also discover the best way to move forward so as to get to the best version of you possible. The truth is, we were sent to this earth with everything that we need to live in this world, to succeed in this world. Those are called spiritual gifts. And once you awaken your spiritual gift, which everybody has, because I'm not special, I had the choice to come as an Indian girl. I had the choice to come as a white girl. I chose to come as a black girl from Kenya because the lessons I needed to learn were going to be best learned in this body as me, the Fidelis you're seeing today. So once I understand that, then I respect everybody else because I know they had a choice to come as me and they didn't. They chose to come as themselves so as to best learn their lessons. And who am I to judge anybody's path? Seriously. I remember as a young girl, a house girl, used to love singing a Kikuyu song that Dahunyokete kiuma kwa wainga diga soka. And I was like, hey. So when my spirituality was given that boost, I said, oof, snap. That is kwa wainga. I'm done. I'm not gonna stress myself over small stuff. I realized my destiny. I realized who I am, where I came from. And that is something that comes from deep down in your heart. And when it comes from deep down in your heart, you know it's true because nobody and nothing can change your mind about it. How beautiful would the world be is if everybody discovered who they were? I once read a quote that says, change begins with you. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and be very truthful with yourself. And if you are ready to discover who you are and you feel like you need some help discovering yourself, feel free to reach out to me. This is the reason why I'm here on earth. And I will continue to broadcast this. I will continue to share this as many times as I can. Because I think people need to hear it. People need to know that there's actually real freedom. That you can actually attain freedom. From my perspective, freedom means being able to do what I need to do when I need to do, however way I want to do it. Some people are limited by money. Some people are limited by family members. Some people are limited by locations. But all these are illusions. Once you understand who you are, you figure out a way to have everything you need find you at your doorstep. I'm not telling anybody to be lazy because, again, you only get what you give. But I can assure you that when you are aware of yourself and you put in your effort, the universe meets you halfway. If this speaks to you, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.